Good afternoon and welcome to Women in Sport Africa, a show that profiles incredible women in sport that have done the distance, be it in the boardroom or on the pitch. And today we're talking to a woman, part two, that has done just that when it comes to marketing and PR in the world of sport. Her story continues. It's Emy Casaletti-Bwalya. And the conversation continues with CEO of Optimize Agency, Emy Casaletti-Bwalya. And if you missed the previous episode, please do manage to catch up on it because we did cover her early childhood all the way to the FIFA World Cup in 2010, her work around the world, but of course also starting that agency that has done incredible work, including with Kgothatso Monjane. And Amy, I just want to continue from there because I remember hosting a business breakfast where you detailed for us the work that you did with Kgothatso and the changes that you had to make. And I remember listening to an interview with Kgothatso, her saying that one of the things that have boosted her career, but also still hinder her in terms of making it to getting that singles title is the level of support. And the question that you were asked is still a very big question. How is Kgothatso not as sponsored as the Springboks, for example?
Yeah. Well, in terms of ratio, she's very well sponsored at the moment. However, she could be better sponsored in terms of having a full-time coach traveling with her. You know, Kgothatso at the moment travels on her own, carries her own wheelchair. She does everything. She's fully independent. But ideally, if she was more sponsored, we could have a full-time coach. At the moment, we rely a lot on Billie Jean King, and we're so grateful to have a legend working with us in America who does help her with coaching through her wife, Ilana. So we've got a lot of help there. But when she goes to Wimbledon, Roland Garros, Australian Open, she goes without a coach. So our aim is really to raise enough funds to have, as you can imagine, a full-time coach is expensive.
Sure.
And she's her own coach at the moment. She's got a hitting partner, but she doesn't have a coach. So that's our next step. And even to have the opportunity to travel with her, to be there behind the scenes, to give her the confidence. And
because I imagine at that level of competition, she gets there, the likes of Yui and Didier de Groot, her competitors, are probably surrounded by a number of professionals, from your psychologists to the coaches, and that does make a difference.
Makes a huge difference. And don't forget that Didier de Groot, for example, based in Holland, she can have continuous competition in Europe because she had... KG doesn't have competition. For her to play against another highly ranked wheelchair tennis player, she needs to travel. To travel, you need funding.
Yeah.
So it's a bit of a circle, but we're getting there. To the extent that KG's foundation built two tennis courts in Koa, near Tsanin, not long ago, and so she's already giving back, even though she doesn't ideally have enough, she's already giving back. Sure. So that just shows you the type of person that she is.
And I mean, Amy, just looking at the understanding of women in sport as a term, we say it so much that it's just a term that runs through your mouth as you say it. But that's where the conversation is important to understand that when we say women in sport are not getting as much, women in sport need the level of sponsorship. When we say professionalization in certain sporting codes, these are the things that we're talking about. We're talking about having medical aid. We're talking about not having a full-time job and still being a professional athlete at the highest level.
Yeah, you see what people need to understand, that a professional female athlete trains as much as a professional male athlete. So the work involved in getting to that level is exactly the same. So one should be paid the same for the work. But then comes the business of sport. So how many people are watching you? Therefore, how much sponsorship will you get? Because ultimately, sponsors are not there because you're a pretty face.
Yes.
Sponsors want return on investment. So the eyeballs that are watching you are what's going to get you the sponsorship or not. And that's where the world is evolving. We are getting more recognition. Women athletes are getting much more recognition. They're getting more eyeballs. the Rugby World Cup, Women's Rugby World Cup is a perfect example if you've seen some of the action on there. The Women's World Cup is hitting the biggest records. So slowly but surely, the eyeballs are growing, and in turn, sponsorship. I think women's sport is probably one of the most fertile investment areas in sport at the moment. If you get in now, you won't regret it. And slowly but surely, you can see the investment that's going on in America with the Women's League, in the UK, in Italy, all over the place. Women's sport is being highly commercialized and highly invested in, and it's bound to happen here as well.
And from an athlete's point of view, how do then, as an athlete that perhaps is not playing at the highest level as Kgothatso, but maybe showing that potential, but of course the support is needed. How then do I put myself in a position where I attract as much sponsorship as possible?
Well, importantly is to stay in your lane in terms of getting the work done, training, practicing, you're really working hard at your craft. But secondary to that has to be looking after your image. You have to not be silly. I see it all the time. I see silly things happening. You know, you've just got a car sponsorship and you're filming yourself chatting live while you're driving. You know,
small things.
You know, those kind of things you need to just really be careful, particularly in today's time with social media. Social media is a double-edged sword. It's fantastic, and then it's risky because you're building your brand that way, but you can also have a negative impact. So my advice is be careful what you do, because all eyes are watching you. And if you want to become a role model, start acting like one right now.
Start acting one like right now. Emy, moving now to the most current role that you played in Seychelles in the FIFA Beach World Cup. How did that role come about?
Well, I got headhunted. I was asked by the LOC to come and head up their marketing and communications. And I did a lot more than that, by the way. But Seychelles is Africa, believe it or not. People don't realize that Seychelles is part of Africa. And it was such an amazing opportunity, not knowing much about beach soccer, to be perfectly honest, and realizing how big it actually is. 16 countries came through to Seychelles. Seychelles is a relatively small market, only 120,000 people live there. But we managed to increase their tourism by 17%. Hotels were fully booked. The stadium was packed. We had the highest attendance, highest sales in hospitality, highest merchandising and licensing sales. We hit all the records, the most goals scored. We knocked it out of the park with the Beach Soccer World Cup. The next host is going to have a
tough time.
Big shoes to fill, yeah.
I want to ask you, Emy, quickly before we go to an ad break. You know, when we say no DNA, just RSA, I think you fall under that category.
I do.
Yes,
I do.
no, I think.
No doubt.
And I'm glad you're saying that. I thought you were going to say no, but I'm not.
No, for sure. I'm there.
No, truly, Emy, no DNA, just RSA, because wherever you go, you represent us South Africans, because we claim you as well. So when we come back, we'll talk more about this FIFA Beach Soccer World Cup that happened in Seychelles and Emy's role as the Director of Marketing as well as Communications. Women in Sports Africa continues after this. Welcome back to Wiser, and our guest this afternoon is Emy Casaletti-Bwalya. Emy, so you go to Seychelles, and as you were saying, of a country that has no crime, no unemployment as much as we experience here in South Africa. But what are some of the lessons that you got to learn from that community?
Well, one of the biggest lessons from a marketing perspective is that you think you know everything about marketing. You get to a country where there's no billboards, there's no outdoor, you're not allowed to give pamphlets out because of the environment, so you can't do pamphlets.
Sure.
Social media is really Facebook and WhatsApp groups. So you really have to recalibrate your marketing brain to suit that market. But we managed, and with city branding and with a fantastic mascot, we came out with the most beautiful mascot. We just turned it around, and the whole country was behind us. In fact, I think the whole country was in the stadium. But we had 71 countries came into Seychelles to watch the Beach Soccer World Cup.
Sure.
Tickets were sold to 71 different countries.
And it was the first time the Beach Soccer World Cup was hosted on the continent once more.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Previous, it was in Dubai 2 years before.
Okay. So involved in the first World Cup, the 2010, as well as this
First.
FIFA. Yes. Do you look at those moments and think, I've worked, and I'm happy to continue getting these first and changing the game as I go? Actually,
as you mention it now, it's just dawned on me. So I have never stopped to reflect, to think of just how legendary that is to be involved in the first two African World Cups, senior World Cups. Of course, there's been under 17.
Yes.
So yes, a fantastic honor and opportunity and learning. I think it really makes me a citizen of the world.
But also what I pick up, Amy, is you continuously growing and learning, despite having done so much already since the 80s in football here in the country. But as it's going, you're now going to a country like Seychelles that completely has to switch your mind, and you again once more start learning.
Yeah, and you have to, I've had offers from other countries to go and help them with their football, where you have to switch your whole mind around into AI, NFTs, completely different levels of consumption of content. So you're quite right. Every day I'm learning, every single day. I like to keep abreast of where we are in terms of marketing tools, which are, AI is just taking over. You can ask them to do a whole marketing campaign for me now. Sit back and he'll write the speech for me.
Things you probably took days sometimes to put together. And maybe that adaptability as well, which we touched on earlier on in our conversation in the first episode, having to adapt. You had to adapt from a young age at 9, coming into a new country, and you toured the world with your parents. But that adaptability is something that you've started at a young age.
Yeah, and it's so important in a career, particularly an international career like mine, traveling to countries. I've traveled to countries like Iran and Myanmar under military junta, where, you have to sit there and adapt and eat what gets put in front of you and do what they tell you to do, not shake hands with men and lecturing to men. And, so you really have to adapt to different cultures and respect them. I can't be there toying saying women need to be able to drive.
Yes.
But you need to adapt. And I'm a big proponent of adaptability being one of the biggest lessons in life. You've got to get out of your comfort zone. You can't be a spoiled brat behind your desk. You have to really...
Yeah. And how much of a misconception, now that you reflect and you look back, Africa as a continent, you've toured the world, but also you've gone around the continent and you've seen a lot of what Africa has to offer. And to this day, when you watch a movie, you'll see that the idea of Africa as a continent is still twisted in many ways.
Yeah, that perception is really, really harsh, because my learning from Africa is that African people have a different mindset in terms of, and I don't want to be cliche with the word Ubuntu, but Africans are kind, Our mindset is completely different to the European, the Asian, and whatever African country you go to, you're always welcomed and you're always treated well. And there isn't an African country I've been to where I haven't been completely welcomed, treated like a queen, and being impressed with where they are. We often, the world kind of looks down on Africa, but they really should be looking up. There's so much to learn from every single country in Africa.
Amy, you're also award-winning, and I'm sure the accolades, we could list them, but I want to go into the G-Sport Awards, Women in PR and Sponsorship, which really highlights the work that has been done by the likes of you, by the likes of Brown and Roots, who recently won as well at the G-Sport Awards. Are we at a place where we can say that for women in sport, we completely understand the role of PR and sponsorship and how it has to be tailored a little differently to the men's game?
Yeah, I think that award should be a marketing award, because sponsorship and PR form part of marketing.
Marketing, yes.
Because marketing is probably the most misunderstood term. Everybody thinks they can be marketers without really understanding that it takes so much more than just you can't find sponsorship for someone unless you've built a brand and you've marketed it correctly, and you can't, and you've done the right PR. So yes, marketing of sport is almost automatic if the team does well. It's easier to market a winning team. It's easier to market Khotaso when she's winning than when she's losing.
Yes.
So they do marketing on the field, but you've got to really enhance it off the field. You've got to make sure that it's hitting the right, it's ticking the right boxes off the field. You need the right leadership. I can't stress this enough. Football associations and clubs need the right leadership. They need aspirational leadership in order for it to filter into sponsorship, partnerships, and people want to get behind your brand when the whole pipeline is well structured.
It all needs to make sense and look attractive. Yeah. Emy Casaletti-Bwalya is our guest today on the Women in Sport Africa show. And when we come back, we wrap it up with the legacy of her personally, but also of Optimize Agency and the work they still look to do in the near future. It's Women in Sport Africa. We've reached the tail end of our edition today of Women in Sport Africa with our guest, Emy. Emy, many people describe you as a mentor, which is a big title to have, but also it speaks to your Ubuntu, as you mentioned earlier, in shaping the future women in sport. How do you approach that? Because also a lot of people, when you approach people and you say, please be my mentor, rather, it's like, oh, do I have the time and the patience? Yeah. What do you think about mentorship in this day, in 2025?
Yeah, so individual mentorship, as you say, I turn it down. I don't have the time. I don't have the capacity. So how I turn that mentorship, I accept all the invitations as we speak. I've got an invitation with COSAFA for women's football to talk about marketing communications, crisis communication. I've got a CAF. I help them with their upper management course at UCT, so I go lecture to them. So for me, that's mentorship. The more I can share my knowledge with a group of people, the more that multiplies. So, I don't feel so bad about turning individuals down. And whenever FIFA asks me to help them, I help them to do mentorship courses. I am a FIFA mentor together with another South African, with Fran Hilton-Smith. So whenever we are asked to mentor younger women in football, we do so.
But also we know that what is important to you is social causes. You've worked with the Nelson Mandela Foundation. Talk to us about that work and how it's obviously completely different to the world of football and sports as a whole. How does then that filter into your roles and what you've done? So Optimize Agency is the official fundraising agency for the Nelson Mandela Foundation. So we raise all their funds. Okay. So there again, you've got a brand. And Nelson Mandela is a lovely brand to represent. Yes. And so besides their sporting events, the Mandela Day Walk and Run in July and the Mandela Remembrance Walk and Run in December in Pretoria, and golf days and all other sporting events, we also raise funds for them from corporates, from associations internationally and locally.
That's a fantastic project. Together with my partner Thabo, we kind of split sport and politics, and he handles that side, and I handle sport. I'm also a board member of Women and Men Against Child Abuse. I've been on that board for almost 20 years now. We do some very meaningful work in that area, which is quite scary. But that's an important part of what I do, as well as the Brand South Africa board membership. That's marketing the country,
yes,
which is quite a big legacy project for me.
And using your expertise, sometimes a debate comes up, mostly on social media, about athletes balancing playing sport and so being social activists. You know, you'd find that, for example, if Kgothatso Monjane would say something about a situation that's happening in the news, then many people want to say, stick to playing sport.
Yeah.
How do we then balance that? Because it's important for Kgothatso to say something as an important figure, but at the same time, she's got a brand.
You're so right, and it's so risky. I mean, look at Colin Kaepernick in America taking the knee, what they did to his career. But then on the other hand, you've got a Didier Drogba who managed to stop a war in Côte d'Ivoire. So, yeah, it's got to be well-timed. It's got to be well thought out. I think it's very important for sports people to be, because they looked upon as role models and so admired. And I think they should take a stand, particularly in today's day, when there's so much unfairness going on and there's so much socio-political mayhem. I think athletes should take a stand, but to a certain degree, whilst looking after their brand.
And being a board member in an important organization like Brand South Africa, that is basically what South Africa looks like to the world.
Yeah.
How do you think the world sees us? Because I know how we see ourselves as South Africans, but how does the world then see Brand South Africa?
I think the world really, we've got so many positives and a few niggly problem children, but the positives that come through research are really heritage, sport. Nelson Mandela comes up all the time. His legacy is such an important brand for the country. Unfortunately, crime and corruption come up, but the whole country's working on that. Yeah. Everyone's working on that, and we're not even in the top 7 in terms of crime in the world. But that's besides the point. I think the world really admires South Africa. We've done so much. We punch way above our weight, and we're doing so well in the world. I think we just need to keep at it, keep augmenting.
And in the spirit of keeping at it, I want to talk to legacy. When you think about the word legacy, what would you say the kind of legacy that you've shaped, because you continue to shape it to this day, just personally as you and an individual?
I would like women to know that there's no glass ceiling, that they can break through it. I think we just need to keep pushing. We need to push harder. It's easier for a man. A man with my experience is president of associations at the moment. But we need to keep pushing. We mustn't give up, and we need to keep pushing. The new generation of women coming through really have an opportunity to make a huge difference in sport and in administration, both on and off the field. And I think if there's a legacy I'd like to leave, is for them to know that they can do it.
And I mean, part of the key messaging around this show is for that young girl that's sitting at home, probably hopeless when you look at how our country's set up and, the level of unemployment for young people. What then do you say to inspire them to chase those dreams in a place where it doesn't look too good?
Yeah. Again, without sounding cliche, situations are tough. I say, keep at it. The most important thing, I think, is for young people to really understand, if you want to go into law or if you want to go into sport or whatever it may be, learn about it. Do as much research as you can. So when you stand up in front of a senior, you're able to talk with conviction. And that's what's important. You can't sit at home and say, I want to be in sports marketing and not know the first thing about it. You need to really know your stuff.
Thank you so much. Thank you to Emy Casaletti-Bwalya for telling us her story and for helping us shape the narrative and continue to change the narrative when it comes to women in sport and what they're capable of. And that's where we leave it this week on Women in Sport Africa. Join us again next week for another game-changing female in the world of sport.